Welcome everyone to our live show. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. We've got a full chat room here. I want to say hello to Ellie, Patricia, Bethany, Richard, Archon, Tamaz, Leela, Tony, Marie, Betsy, Radovov, Summer, and everyone that is a named guest. Everyone, please sign in with a guest if you'd like your name to be fully announced. We've got Maggie, we've got Kim, we got Nico76, the Bush Boy, Robert, guest Patty, Trevor, Aventine, Ryan, and Sagwa, and 70 more people who haven't signed in to the chat roll. So take your time, everyone. Sit back, relax. We're going to be having a unique opportunity to talk and have a greater understanding and connect together. We were going to be taking calls this show, and yes, that's something that's going to be coming back, but due to the technical difficulties, we'll have to wait till next show to take calls. So we're going to be using the chat roll today for questions. And I saw in here earlier some of the questions didn't all appear. I believe the chat roll clears itself every 24 hours. So we've got a lot of people already asking questions. And let me take a question here from Summer. I believe that I heard you mention baby souls being born in the dream world or other realms. What does this mean exactly, and how does it work? Is the conception a result of sexual interaction in the other realms? A unique type of question. So I've mentioned about baby souls in the dream worlds of other realities. But when you are in fetus and egg, which is a light frequency technology, the soul, which is a non-localized event, becomes localized in this frequency of time. It can also be non-localized in dozens of other frequencies of time, meaning other dream worlds. And it can manifest in other dream worlds. It can be simultaneous in the fetus in another womb, creating another life source, because your stream of light is not limited to manifestation in a single place. So yes, other realms and worlds are fully capable. So that answers what exactly does that mean? It's the capability of simultaneous existence. And when we practice the 7 past generations and the 7 future generations as a way of personal heraldry and recognition of those of the past and those of the future, you have to understand what the fetus in the womb as a localized and non-localized technology is. It's where the I am comes in and says to the soul, come on in, we're making an instrument of perception that has dreaming world processes to it. We do live in a world of duality here in this bigger, greater world, but in reality, we do not live in a world of duality. That is just a perception-deception filter. So, in conception is a result of sexual interactions. Not all births are sexual interactions. Here we have a masculine and a feminine. I've also talked a 3rd option of sex, a 4th option, a 5th, and a 6th option of sexual processes that do not involve male or female parts. We have only been exposed to those by those points of view. And another 3rd sexual expression was not just the hermaphrodite, it's the ability to go into the heart and take a spirit directly into the heart and transit it down to your lower abdomen and then dream pass it on into a feminine spirit where it bypasses the male phallic or insertionary process where it's a direct energy exchange, and then that feminine takes that into their body and nurtures it more and then passes it back up to the heart into a 3rd person who actually gives birth to it. A 4th option is direct energy manifestation, when 2 beings in true love can create their own light singular frequency and they can directly manifest a DNA technology being. So those are some of the concepts that are out there when it comes to that. All right. All right, so here's the one from Bethany Campbell. Greeting engines, all the cosmic explorers out. Questions regarding the 5th dimension. Would you please describe what living the 5th dimension is? Is it possible to engage the 3rd dimensional bullshit? Is it engage without the 3rd? So the 5th dimension is when you've already detoxed from Roman numeral time and the need to be on other frequencies of identified time. That is where the soul, as its emanation, can be considered the higher self. but it is not the only higher self. At that point in the fifth dimension, there are many higher selves who are connected to many celestial minds, planets that have personalities, that have created a entourage of beings to work with us higher selves at that fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, and 11th and 12th dimension. Those other dimensions are the fifth dimension is the stepping stone into awareness patterns. And then through awareness patterns, you can manifest on the higher levels. In reverse, on this fifth dimension, how does one deal with the third dimensional bullshit? That is reverse engineering this hierarchical dimension until it's no longer a hierarchical dimension. And that is the teachings of equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order, non-separation, non-duality. That is how we can take this third dimensional program bullshit and begin to deprogram it as triggers, shame, blame, guilt, anything that's involved at limiting the soul from its unlimited point of view. The fifth dimension is the epitome of the unlimited point of view. You have access to an entire universe and extra universal processes. There in the fifth dimension is where superluminal thought in heart-spaced awareness is extremely easy to process and do. So I hope that helps with your question. So I've done the Mandela effect, I don't know, a half dozen times. The solar eclipse, here's one from Ryan. The solar eclipse, the saga, will allow more positive souls to incarnate directly without using the crumbling archon grid. Unfortunately, the solar eclipses do not really affect the archon grid like we may want. In fact, it enhances them. It enhances everyone's ability to be born. The archon grid is trying to say, no, you can't be born, you can't be born. Here's my papers that says you can't be born because my beings are coming first. That is all that they are, is a membrane that says Africa needs this soul, America needs this soul, Samoa needs this soul, and I'm the hierarchical being that says it. Though there are many beings who can bypass this grid. And on an eclipse, you can easily bypass the archon grid. Here's one from a guest 3086. What exactly is going on in the Antarctic? A whole lot of bullshit. A whole lot of public awareness about really nothing. But it has to do with something. What is going on in the Antarctic is not for us to know until such a time that public awareness changes. So we can only turn to whistleblowing sources, other information sources, to go through a discernment process. What I will say about the Antarctic is vastly different than anyone else out in this industry. It is a existence and frequency of space-time in which multiple time rifts have opened, and different entities from different frequencies of time are beginning to immigrate here, and our subsurface and surface worlds, which are puppets of each other, are in a kerfuffle about immigration here. Because the archon grid is what's trying to, let's just say, control who lives here, surface and subsurface. So it is ultimately a battle for immigration and immigration paperwork. Now, what are these beings doing? They're going into the rock, into the stone, and learning our history. Why? Because a long time ago, we asked them to come here and do that process, to audit everything that's in time-space. So that's my thoughts about the Antarctic. Why is everyone going down there? I'll leave that for another show. So here's one. What are your thoughts about people watching the upcoming eclipse? I would very much make it a sacred ceremony, for that is when you have time to access the sacred neutral point of view, to begin to honor all of the previous eclipses that you've experienced before and all the future experiences that you will. This is a time of healing, a time of loving, a time of finding that inner joy. Here is where you, the individuals in hyperfrequency, can do anything that you want if you ultimately bring the sacred discipline. People have been praying to eclipses since the dawn of eclipses in time. This is where you can prepare your own time, your own prayers, your own thoughts, your own clearing ceremonies, cutting of the cords, all of those things. Dedication to your future self. There you go. So here's one. Are angels part of the hierarchy? In our perception, yes. Once you get out of Roman numeral global narrative time perception, they are not a hierarchy. That is our imprint upon them. So here's one from Ava. Hello, Andrew. From 2018, no cash anymore in Germany. Well, I believe there will be cash. I don't believe there will be a crash of the economy. I don't believe anything will be happening tomorrow, to next week, next month, next year, or in the next 5 years. Until you see people out in the same scale and size of the 1960s and 70s marching in the streets for change. Until such a time as that, we are still smoking the hopium that change will come, that the economy will crash and this and that will change. Nothing's changing right now. And in fact, everything is staying more the same in the government's narrative to us globally. Until such a time that we no longer allow their narrative to run our perception and create deceptions within ourselves. Okay, next question. So it appears not all the comments are staying in there. All right, I will have to find out about that. All right, let me move to the next question here. Andrew, can you please talk about the whole Syrian pentagram that Cobra mentioned, the technology, underground, ancient civilizations, their smuggling, and the Philippines, Africa situation? Personally, I don't like to answer anything about Cobra anymore because he's got a bunch of thugs over there. Every time I say that something different than what he believes, the thugs come out. So I don't support Cobra. I don't support the marketing and the hope that he's selling. And as for the technology and ancient civilizations that are underground there, I'm going to call bullshit where bullshit is. He's selling hope and he's selling fear. And if that brings out the thugs, so be it. I don't care anymore. I've reached a point where this industry is so incestuous and bringing out nothing new, constantly spitting out the same thing over and over again. I've made my separation of densities. And that to talk about that for talk's sake, it's just selling hope. It's just selling fear. And the same thing with the Antarctic question. There is a huge unseen world change. And if people truly want to make a difference and find out on their own, go into the unseen world. Begin to create borders, boundaries, rules, and policies. Begin to communicate to your spirit guides who are going to be willingly tell you all about those processes, separate of a medium who's going to give you the selling of hope and the selling of fear. I know that may be a little harsh, but I've reached a point in my own personal process that what this industry does, which is consciousness, spirituality, conspiracy, self-help, and psychology, they've all been merged into one. The book industry's collapsed. The Amazon industry took over and collapsed, and ultimately everything is now one big giant genre, each drawing upon its own processes to confirm and affirm its own. We reached a point in the entire disclosure industry, nothing new has come out in 40 years. Nothing new. If you are a researcher or an average researcher, you can go to all of the videos that are out there, and there are no new ones. They're all recycled and reused. It's the dragon eating its own tail. This is where we got to let go of the global narrative at a higher level and take on our own deep inner narrative. All right, so here's one from... I've heard that between the years 2017 and 2017 is the no change of era. As you said, society is supposed to be in a new paradigm. It's about the self and one's own perception. but are there any validity to this time frame? So there's always validity to this time frame in what the I am is going to choose to resolve. You are the I am, and everyone else through here is their own I am. And in their I amness, the action of being the I am, you're always resolving something in this fraud time. When I say detoxify from fraud time, because there is a way through perception that the I am can be in time and no time. When the I am can simultaneously agree to itself that it can be in time and no time, we reach the first level of transmutation, which comes into transcendence. The I am is transformed or transmuted into the multidimensional being that it was when it was a fetus in the womb. It's the next level of spiritual birthing process. So it isn't about 2017 to 2027. It's about individually what individuals do in their own compartment of their own bubble of reality in this own frequency of now. That ultimately is the validity of the experience. Because during that time, who have you met? Who will you fall in love with? What mystical experiences you have? What jobs will you have? What people will be in your life? All those are filling memories of light that will be passed on to the next experience and the next experience and the next experience that's you. We are not linear beings. We are omnidirectional time experiencing beings. Spherical universal time is our natural nature. So detoxifying from the single linear frequency of time gives us the opportunity to take on the unlimited point of view time, which is our greater legacy. So, Andrew, could you speak on the ridiculous notion of the rapture being imminent? Yeah, it's not going to happen. Bullshit. Are the old ones from Hollow Earth? No. No. Hollow Earth is where the ancestors live as unseen beings, as well as physical civilizations who have figured out how to live between the spaces of atoms, energy beings, and physical beings who hollowed out different spaces in there. There are over 10,500 different species that live down there who use the surface of our world as a puppeting process over many millions of years to create a DNA farm, a mass DNA farm in which DNA frequencies from other worlds have been come here and mixed so they can make a master DNA body to invite souls to come in and live through this experience. Currently, it's being run by said Illuminati and Cabal for the last 10,700 years, and before that, it was somebody else and somebody before that, each passing on a hierarchical torch of control. Now we've reached a point where hierarchical torch of control is no longer going to be an emanation-based frequency here, and that which is going on in the hollow world is reflected in our surface world. Just as you have the three stooges of Trump and the world leaders confused, the same thing is going on in the hollow earth. All right. Are our bodies, this is one from Carolina, sorry. Are our bodies going through continuous change? I feel it more intensely after the summer solstice. I feel as if time has sped up even more. Well, it has. In your perception, you've reached a frequency of light that the sunlight that's coming into you is creating greater motion in your energy in seen and unseen world. So every step you take has 10 times the amount of light behind it that can be made into a memory. So when you are in memory-making moments, that isn't just work and typing or sitting with a friend, it's actually in those intense moments of personal passion, continuity of time and space through mystical experience. When you are going, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life, you have 10 times the volume of energy to make those moments. So when one begins to strategize how many moments can I make in a day that will be lifelong memories and makes those a sacred discipline choice, this continuous change you're talking about is a strategized continuous change that does not have the unknowingness factor to it because you have taken up the co-creatum of the next level. And yes, time has sped up based off of your ability to make imprinted dreams. All right, here's one from Robin. Andrew, if you find yourself surrounded by a vast choice of senses, music, healing, light language, and are already years of teaching. So some of your questions not there. So If you find yourself surrounded by vast choice, I'm going to be like light language and already years of teaching, so I'm saying you're saying what you probably want to do with that. Taking life to the next level is not easy. When I chose to go on a stage at this level, to not be produced by Hollywood, to not have the information owned by them, to not have the creative control that I do to go live whenever I want, do whatever material I want. That is the true freedom of power, and it comes with a great responsibility. Each and every week I come here to put on a show, whether it's Living the Mystical Life Daily, whether it's the Galactic History shows, whether it's reading shows. In 5 years, I did 367 reading shows. That's over 700 hours. Okay, that's nearly 10,000 public readings. So, every time I've done interview shows, you've got to find your way of taking all of those things, all of that vast surrounded choices and synthesize it into one form of knowingness. I can do this or I can't. When you begin to synthesize your knowingness, it's making that clear separation of knowing what you can do by yourself and what you can't do by yourself. And then by willing to ask for help, what I can do becomes even more potent. This is where you or anyone that's out there that wants to take it to the next level, ask for help. Find the teachers around you that can help you, even if it's a person that figures out how to plug your mic in the right way or to set the lights the right way. What I chose is to have an entire full-on TV broadcast station in which I can do everything that a local TV station can do and more. Why? Because I'm intending to bring content out that is going to change everyone, give everyone a chance to interact with all the different things that we've done over the many, many years. Here's one from guest 4522. Andrew, can you tell us anything about crop circles? Like, are they telling us something we should listen to? Well, there are many different forms of crop circles, and it actually recreates on many worlds. So let me create the clear separation of the types of crop circles. First thing first, a planet is a sentient being. It has an awareness, and it is ancient, and it is usually in the 10th to 13th dimension, or in the 15th density, meaning it's the frequency of light and the life experiences it has. It's solidified in a planet. Now, other light ship captains will transverse the multiverse looking for celestial beings, energy, not the physical planet they are, and come and interact in their crown chakra, which is the North Pole in the Aurora Borealis, and they'll perceive light, and then after they perceive light, they'll go into the physicality and broadcast a frequency of light they've taken from the Aurora Borealis onto the surface of the planet. They will then back up, and within a few days or hours, the planet will then make another crop circle very close to it that is a response to its translated celestial message. That is the original crop circle concept. There are several avenues that have been hijacked off of it, where you have lower density species who have witnessed high frequency light ship captains do this around the universe. They are trying to hack the celestial code. So you have good ones and bad ones and neutral ones and ones that don't know what they're doing. You then have other beings who are time travelers exclusively. They don't interact in time, but they travel through time observing. They will create crop circles as a marker stone in time for themselves and other watchers in time. That watcher in time is the planet will also send a message back giving its celestial frequency of time. When you have the two codes, you have the cipher to unlocking celestial time. Now, there are other, let's just say, nefarious people that try to simulate crop circles and simulate an answer and then hijack a stream. We as conscious observers who have gone through Linda Moulton Howe, Crop Circle Connector, and all those TV shows that have hypothesized what it is, what I have just said has nothing to do with the hypothesis. It is not the guys with the things plowing down. It is celestial contact that's been hijacked for a specific precept of having celestial communication. That's why when special beings who have great communicative empathic power do go to true crop circles and not falsely created ones, can have intense experiences. All right, here we go. All right, here's one. Here's one from Kali. I have been researching cannabis and other plants, and I have been consistently astounded by cannabis. Most plants are second dimension based. Cannabis seems to go up to the fifth. Any insights on what this plant is and seems to be different? I have a lot of information on the cannabis plant. At a very young age, I learned how to grow it quite well, and I did connect to the plant over many different years. I also assisted people in juicing the cannabis plant that were going through cancer and chemotherapy transplants for high amounts of THC, as well as other aspects to it. So, is cannabis fifth dimension? Actually, I believe it's a seventh dimensional plant that was seeded here at about 28 million years ago, though other expressions of cannabis had already been grown here in a DNA lineage. So it's like having two families. You have a mother that has created children, and then you have some other mother that has created children through a duplication process. So are they the same strand and scene? No. It's another celestial strand's creation of cannabis that came here and intermixed with this celestial strand of creation. And this is why we have so many varieties of cannabis here. So naturally our bodies produce THC as well as THCA, cannabinoids, and all of that other stuff. They brought that here because the skin suits they were creating would use that for psychoactive effects, spiritual effects, great focus, healing, so on and so forth. It was a process of learning how to use the plant when it's crushed up. I mean, in the ancient past, they would grow 2-3 acres of it, and let's say a half acre of it, of the highly potent buds, would be ground up as much as it could, and then they'd make this big vat of warm water. And they could have 2 or 3 people in the vat, and they'd dump in 2 or 3 kilograms of this finely done stuff, and they'd float in this water, and their entire body would be nurtured in that THC. They'd come out and have 2 to 5 day spiritual experiences followed up by other cleansing processes. Cannabis is something that is meant to be used in large volumes, not by smoking it though. We are choosing to smoke it because that is what the 60s has created as a legacy to pass on. When we begin to let go of the legacy of smoking and begin to use it via alchemy, we will have a greater understanding of the synthesis between multiple densities and dimensions there that give us access to light constructs that can give us even more potency through the consumption of it through alchemical belief means. All right, here's one from guest 3741. Can I am presence transcend the light construct? Yes, but it's a matter of will the I am presence understand it and not fall back to the habit pattern of being addicted to Roman numeral time. We as I ams are addicted to time because that's what our parents passed on to us. They are addicted to time. What bills to pay, what experience is coming in the future, until such a time we let go of expectations that are creating our limitations of an unlimited point of view. All right, here's one from Eva. How do I store energy to make it available for me to continue self-illumination? Very good question. The very first way is loving yourself more. Now, this may seem cliched, but there are many ways to love ourselves that do not bring the fullness of power. So I can be blunt. And one sexual processes is where you exchange love through partners. And one is a private process. It's still an exchange of love, but so many people have shame, blame, and guilt there. There is where you choose to have those self-pleasuring processes, and you say at the deepest level, I love myself at the greatest. I do this as my great journey into the great ever after as a loving being. That's taking it to a next level of dedication and personal honesty to the self. How does one store even more energy? This is where the understanding of food moving through the intestinal tract ultimately determines how much energy it takes each night to have dreams. So many people have a very out of balance intestinal tract. Therefore, when the dreaming body goes through its creation process, it must go through all of that psychic toxicity and physical alchemical toxicity to go out into the dreaming experience, have a dream, and then come back in and go through that. Clearing the gut so that the gut can store positive energy and positive experiences to enhance the dream world. So that the food that you're putting into your mouth has not only a prayer over it, it has blessings over it. It's not just the dinner time prayer where you put your hands over it. You, the preparer, get off of processed foods. How else can we store energy? This is where we choose to do a meditation that is specifically designed to store energy. This is where, through our guided meditation process, I now begin to store energy within my nose. I now begin to store energy within my chin. I now begin to store energy in every aspect of your body that you can name out. And you make this a regular, cyclical process, and you will begin to notice time after time, the more that you do this process is saying, I am storing this energy. And there are no rules or conditions that can steal this energy. This is not a rob Peter to pay Paul. This is for me to have my personal self-illumination moments. I am saving this energy for those aha moments, those great expressions. By finding the joy behind those words, to imprint that into yourself, is where you'll find even more ways to store energy. Beyond that, beyond the cliched energies of getting up and moving, it is where you choose to be enthused at the most joyous level. Each morning that you wake up, each afternoon you find yourself depressed or regressed or suppressed. I am here for a great purpose, and begin to enjoy that purpose. Out-focus that surrounds you that is self-defeating. That is how we store more energy and get access to more energy. So, guest 3086, can we ascend with our body in groups? No, it is an individual ascension. It has always been individual transcendence and ascension. That is the whole point. We're not doing it as a group. Though, when we all go through the transcendence ascendance process, we realize that we're all one, but that is the individual, non-compartmentalized individual expression everyone needs to go through. All right. All right. How do you heal? All right, here's one from guest 5425. How do you heal numbness and depression? Well, you must get at the source of why it is there. Most people in numbness and depression have a refusal to look at why it's there, a denial to look at why it's there, a denial at the original root that created it. Oftentimes there are 2 to 3 roots that create numbness and 5 to 6 roots that create depression. And those few moments that you do look, you only see one root or you see all 5 roots, and it's too much to overcome. You as the individual must choose to say, I choose not to be numb. I choose not to be in depression. And enforce that in you in your self-observation. So when you get up in the morning, what is the first thing that you're doing? Are you repeating your cycle from day to day without illumination in any way? If so, that is where self-observation and self-discernment can say, no, I'm stopping the repeating pattern. I'm engaging a new pattern. This is where depression stops you from experiencing. And you have to say to those depressive moments, Why can't I experience today? What is the root of the problem? I wish to have resolution and karmic resolution to all those different aspects of myself that are preventing me from going forward and leading my life purpose. I am here to be on my life purpose, on my life track, with my own expressions. This is the conversations we must have with our depressive selves. That is the first way. The second way is to go to your photo box and to look at the pictures where you have the fake smile on, are unable to see the future of you, and that's where you in that depressed, numb moment say, I'm going to choose to engage my higher self. And you pick up that first picture and you send love to that being. For you know how upset that being is. Let's say it's when you were 13 or 15 and you had a horrible argument with your parents and you left, and that's what set you down the rebellious path to where you are. You pull that picture out, you hold it, and you begin to tell that being through love, your most intense form of love, your life story. As brutally honest as you can be. If you have that courage, you have dozens of pictures throughout your life that you can go to and do the same thing. Begin to clear that frequency of rebellion that created depression, depression that created rebellion, that created cyclical amounts of high energy and low energy. You can overcome it by strategizing and using the mystical to your greater abilities. All right, here's guest 3086. What is the flat earth teachings going around? Bullshit, lies that have been created to pull you into something that isn't real. Didn't we get over the flat earth teachings by the church in the 900 ADs? So that's the last time I'm going to mention about flat earth. I get that so many times. Sorry, I didn't mean to be mean to you at all. It is so many people that are caught in this drive-by listening. They only get a couple times to listen to shows, and then they hear this, and they hear these buzzwords, and they get caught in these buzzwords, and it's the dragon eating its own tail, feeding you information that's repetition over and over again. Here's one for Aventine. Will you ever have a show where we submit pre-written questions that look you through beforehand? We tried that, and it became very abusive, where people were sending 7-paragraph questions. So we are going to be doing callers. That was originally that we were going to be doing today, but we had some technical difficulties. So it'll be better when people actually call in, and like we've done before. So no on the long pre-written submitting questions. Sorry about that. So here's one from Jacob in regarding to sun gazing. What is the process exactly, and is it harmful or beneficial? Sometimes I stare for minutes and feel very energized and filled with light afterwards. Feels energetic boost. Most people can't seem to look directly at the sun even for a second without blinking or turning away. We know society says it's horrible, which means there's a likelihood it's the exact opposite. First thing first, you should never be staring at the sun at any time other than sunrise. That's the first thing. So if you're looking at the sun at 8 a.m. or 12 noon, you are doing harm to your eyes, great harm to your eyes. And that's why your belief system is confused. If you are doing it at sunrise, and just for that handful of minutes at sunrise, you will have a uniquely different effect. I talk about another form of sun gazing where it's the eyes are closed, and you do not need to do it at sunrise alone. This is where you are able to look at the sun through the eyelids to activate the two eyes that activate the third eye so that the light of the sun goes all the way down the spinal column and then radiates you from within. This is a way of creating spiritual photosynthesis. So if you're feeling strange at times, it's because the open eyes are having an extreme difficulty at getting the tune of the sun. If it's at sunrise, that means the pulse from the sun is too much from you, and you should actually stop doing it. So oftentimes, when the narrative tells it's good, it's bad, or it's bad, it's good. Yes, but in the sun scenario, you can very easily damage your eyes if you're doing it not at the window of sunrise. All right. Hey, Andre, how you doing? Servant of Truth? All right. So here's one from Kamijo. Thank you for telling us about the changing Schumann resonance. How much longer will this continue? Need advice on coping with the energy changes and dealing with the unawake that are becoming irrational from the changing frequencies. In fact, it's not the Schumann resonance that's making everyone super irrational right now. It is the unseen world that has been turned over, responsibilities that were in domination and control have been shifted. And the weight of this shift is put onto an unseen world that is unable to handle it. So it's like putting a great responsibility on a workforce that's going to be instantly overwhelmed. And that is what happened there. Now, the Schumann resonance is trying to create individually on us, but this cascade effect of high frequency Schumann aid has caused a collapse in the hierarchical structure in the domination and control's unseen world. All the unseen world management is overwhelmed with what's going on, and many of them are putting on the sign that says out of business or unable to compute. And the system itself is trying to create artificial systems to manage. So what you're experiencing is the artificial system trying to enforce old programs from the 90s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, programs that it's observed through people through time observation and re-imprint another frequency of time on people, which is kind of what is really screwing people up. This is why it's so important to get off of Roman numeral time and to make it a regular question. All right, so here's one. What do you mean by the alchemy of cannabis as opposed to smoking it? Well, cannabis is THC creating, and there are ways to consume it that are not smoking it. And that is called alchemy. That is where you learn extraction. Like in modern technology, they got it into wax, they've got it into honey, they got it into all these different things. There are ways to take THC and extract it into other and apply it to other things. There are strands of cannabis that, when properly scientifically expressed, you are able to take the crystallized THCA through cold method, CO2, whatever, and bind it with a vitamin that's very advantageous, that's in, let's say, a time-released capsule that isn't releasing psychoactive THC, it's released non-psychoactive THCA. Combined with that, let's say, high-powered vitamin B or D12 or something to that effect, will have a very powerful healing effect on people. So that is the alchemy and the science. Alchemy is when you're taking the theory, the understanding, and creating the signature frequency of the new expression, as well as extracting cannabis into very low-frequency alcohols. Let's say you're able to make a 1% to 2.5% beer that has 7% cannabis, 7 to 10% CBD cannabis, so it's roughly 5 to 10 grams of CBD. There is where you're going to have instant access to reducing all sorts of pains in a body. That's literally taking pain management at a new level at a 1 to 2.5% alcohol rate. Okay. So here's one from guest 5318. This is a good one. Why is that those who are not on a spiritual journey / unaware of topics that we're discussing here seem to be completely unaffected by the shifts? It seems like it's business as usual. I don't get it. They created that life of illusion. They said, fuck it, I'm giving up to the system. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be unaware. I'm going to be a consumer. I'm going to get that car. I'm going to get my motorcycle. I'm going to get this, whatever it is. The materialism, consumerism has taken them over. Or something else. I want to be a writer, and all I want to do is write about the topics of this world. A musician. I want to be the next music person. They're stuck in that cyclical dragon that's beyond what we're in. Now, the people that are in those worlds are aware of our world, okay? Don't think that they're not. They are. They're ignoring it. In their unseen world, There is chaos and cataclysm going on. But they're putting up the two middle fingers and saying, I'm not listening to the unseen world. I'm not listening. And they're going off in their bubble until their bubble collapses and they need a healer or they have a spiritual awakening. Unfortunately, they chose that life, and fortunate for them. You and everyone else in this room has also had lifetimes where we're saying, fuck it, I'm having a good life. I'm going to go in, have the 2 kids, the car, the this, the that. I'm going to die when I'm 76. All right, I'm looking for a good question here. All right, so here's a cool question from Lightship Capiton. What is the role of the vagus nerve in regulating the parasympathetic nervous system, and how does it relate to the activation of the light body? Now, this one requires a little bit of knowingness behind it. So if you have no idea what the vagus nerve is, this is for everyone in the audience. You have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic side. The sympathetic is your empathic and emotional side, and your parasympathetic is the involuntary and, let's just say, uncaring side, which is more ego, logic, so on and so forth, as well as the involuntary systems of the nervous system. Inside our body is a vagus nerve that starts within our brain, goes through our body, and wiggles all throughout the voluntary and involuntary system. It is the vagus nerve that is, let's just say, a mediator to make sure sleep paralysis happens. And when sleep paralysis happens and the parasympathetic says, I'm going to go to sleep now and be okay and let the dreaming world of the I am take over, the vagus nerve then passes over the responsibility of I amness to the unseen world, the dreaming body. That is this perception of duality. In fact, it isn't, but the responsibility is now passed on to the parasympathetic side. And the responsibility of the parasympathetic side through the vagus nerve is to engage sleep paralysis so that we can have the dreaming body go out. Unfortunately, the vagus nerve is where we bring in aspects of past lives that may influence our dreams. This is the vagus nerve that allows cancers to be created through shame, blame, guilt, anger, frustration. This is in that transfer from what the sympathetic is ignoring to the parasympathetic, who is trying to bring up all the shadow, trying to bring us through continuous cycle of healing and all those other expressions. So the vagus nerve is something that can be targeted by external entity sources, internal entity sources who are aware of how the DNA technology and nervous system works. Now, I can go much more deeper, but it's an understanding. If those of you that are out there are beginning to understand this, go and look up what the vagus nerve. Create your own guided meditation that finds the vagus nerve, the line throughout your body, and brings white, purifying light to it, and kick out anything that doesn't belong there as an I am presence now. Here's one from Retta. Hey, Andrew, what would happen if we all collectively had the same loving thought at the same time? The same thing that has happened every other time that somebody has done that. Amplification. Amplification of expression and experience is a hairy subject in this time and space because it's all about perception. So there are other people who don't have the same awareness of energy, like in the previous question, a person that's deciding a perfect life and they are aware of it. Let's say they came into today's show, first time, never knew any of what's going on there and saw that question. They would have a different point of view. So when you have hundreds of people coming together, having that collective sharing of love, not all of them are bringing the same purity because their belief system may not have the same value of experience. That is this dirty energy underwear. It's when individuals who have done the spiritual hygiene ahead of time and come into this amplification process of self-loving and co-self-loving, we can create a energy bubble of construct interacted, interconnected to us that gets more and more. These are called healing circles, prayer circles, and stuff that have been practiced since the dawn of spirituality. Cleanliness, spiritual people coming together to amplify, modify their light so they can create direct manifestations. All right, here's a cool one. Awareness and presence. You mentioned that you have the sacred neutrality with awareness, and you can bring yourself out of presence to help transmute lower density emotions. Can you have the sacred neutrality in presence, or is it mainly for awareness? The sacred neutrality can be applied to every expression, whether it's awareness or direct action. And there are certain perceptive skill sets that awareness is an action. Just being aware. It's called the entangled observer. When one becomes the unentangled sacred neutral observer, you are taking on all paths of observance and presence that has a potency of light behind it, and saying all time streams and expressions that I am at that moment are in the sacred neutrality. This essentially de-weaponizes all information around you and allows it to just be information that will not change the I am when it comes out of that moment. So here's one from guest 5425. I'm having trouble understanding Roman numeral time. Is this your way of saying focus on things you do not need instead of the ego should do? No, I'm take the words literally. Roman numeral time is what you are addicted to. Since it was created 2,000 years ago and enforced by a false history, creating a linear frequency of time of placebo-based relief that has been going from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime for 2,000 years, built under a lie, without any authentic truth. You are caught in a situation of repetition without illumination for 2,000 years of Roman numeral time. When you say Roman numeral time is not the only frequency of time that I can adhere to, you begin to reduce its power within you, claiming it back so that you can begin to perceive no time, which is in a sense the fourth dimension and the beginning of the unlimited point of view. As you begin to transfer your need of awareness in Roman numeral time, you have more awareness in no time, which is aware of Roman numeral time and changing Roman numeral time's addictive processness so that you can be in no time whenever you are in Roman numeral time and not have Roman numeral time's Babylonian money curse affect you or any of the other conscious entanglement processes from the government, banking, media, masculine, feminine, when the majority of your awareness is working in fourth dimension and fifth dimension. By making that transference of awareness and no longer having the need, the need. I mean, there are, people 100 years ago that lived in the Amazon that never knew what Roman numeral time was. They could not even conceive of it. You must find your own way of beginning to detoxify from its definition in this soul who has an I am, who's been imprinted by tens of thousands of I ams that came before it, saying Roman numeral time was the base of this experience. You begin to erode that belief and find your belief and awareness in fourth dimension, which is this unlimited point of view. So here's one from Radovov. Sorry. After a global Dreamtime unification event, do we need to recreate history? No. History will be in your memories with your own discerning process without a hierarchical filter telling you who won or didn't win. Will things being lost in time and genocide show up? Yes, it will. It'll all your DNA. You'll have access to your DNA. You have access to the coping skills that allow you to read everyone's Akashic records. I mean, I'm an incredible Akashic record in this world. There are others in other worlds that are way intense. You will have those skill sets brought to you to read your own DNA. And the DNA has a separate process from the Akashic records, because what is in your DNA is not the truth of always what's in the Akashic record. What is in your DNA is the I am's experience in light, coded in light, passed on to a higher density version of yourself, who then uncodes it and re-encodes it into its higher dimensional expression from body to body to body. So it's coded, uncoded, upcoded, downcoded. Going through all these encoding processes, some perspective is lost. That is why we use the Akashic record for comparison and contrast and service of light as a streamlight of being. So here's one from Lightship Captain. When you mean letting go of numeral time, do you mean counting life by the moments of experience rather than seconds, minutes, hours? Well, you're still counting in Roman numeral time. It's more like those are the impactful memories that you created during your stream of light, that when it goes through the encoding, downcoding, upcoding, higher coding, re-encoding to the DNA lifetime to lifetime, that those have the potential of passing in fully with the experience from lifetime to lifetime. This is why some people, when they go to past life events or past life regressions, some are super ass clear, because that being was clear and focused and making sure they're recording powerful memories that could be not lost in translation in the encoding of light from the higher density expression to the lower density expression to the next baby in the fetus that's born, that goes through their forgetting and has to remember it in a different way. So getting off of the normal time is literally stopping counting and allowing the totality of your life experience to be the coded light, and that each second of life that you're going forward is not a second in Roman numeral time, but adding to the quality and density of light that is being passed to your higher density self. You know, even before you've died, your whole experience is there. Why? Because you gave that experience an expression of exaction. So is Mother Earth angry at her inhabitants? No, not at all. She loves everyone out there. And that's some of that, light worker crap that was created in 2011, that Earth is going to die and she hates everyone. No, that's all bullshit. It's a 12th density being that is more than capable of handling us little beings. She is trying to nurture us at a third density level, and we aren't capable of understanding the amount of love that she has. That's why healing ourselves individually now is the greatest thing that we can do for this planet, because it creates even more potential for her to change everything that's in her reality. All right, I'm looking for a good question here. What are the origins of the astral planes? Well, you have to understand the foundation of a planet. So a planet is a sentient being that has had billions of years of life experience, oftentimes in more than one, two, or three, or many universes. And they go through a process where I say, I want to go to the higher density levels, the higher dimensions, beyond what the micro light beings are doing. I want to take myself to my macro self, to my next macro level. And they communicate with a galactic or universal central sun. And then that galactic universal central sun will say, find a place in galactic or universal time and go there and begin assembling all of your shards that are simultaneously existing throughout all planets, galaxies, time streams, and universes. And all those shards that begin to come together form a big giant ball of light. That big giant ball of light is the founding of that planet. All of the shards and experiences of billions of years are then there. And then that being extends a contract to a local sun. That local sun is interconnected to all galaxies and all central suns. That creates the spiritual commerce market. Then the reality forming will go around and the planet will begin to manifest its first Akashic record experience. And then soul family members to those soul shards who find themselves compacting will also travel, and many of them will bring ships, many of them will bring technology, and begin to graft to the surface a whole expression. They'll be bringing DNA skin suits that have worked in this world, things to be those founding beings who become the managers of the astral worlds. So those founding beings are commonly called dragons or ascended masters or whatever the hell you want to call them. In that level, those astral worlds are formed, and infrastructure is formed so that the planet can extend contracts to those beings in the astral world for their first formation of DNA. Oftentimes it's microorganisms, it's water, it's stone, it's second density dimensional expression, or first density and dimension stuff. Oftentimes these are super powerful souls who say, yeah, I'll spend 1 million years in Iraq sharing an experience with this great celestial being who's now coming forth because I can simultaneously exist other places. So those first immigration come in, and then additional soul family members come in and make the biological food chain. Or if it's not a food chain-based system, a psychic interaction system, which uses crystal nodal points for equal co-creation, non-competition, and then they begin to engage the soup of creation. That soup of creation allows the planet and the beings who are immigrating from other places in astral worlds to co-create temporary skin suits that house certain experiences from other celestial minds so they can begin to be imprinted upon the surface of the world, creating an ancestral place. Okay, that's how astral goes to physical. Now, when those first groups of beings die on the surface, they go into the hollow earth and create the hollow earth world. This is where the ancestors go. So any future beings anywhere in the galaxy or universe who want to immigrate there now would have an ancestral connection to that first being who came from the first astral world, who had the first death on a world, was part of the first soup of creation, who went into the hollow earth, created it. And this is a continuous cycle. And this is how planets are over and over created, and that's how the astral worlds come into hyperfunction. So, Andrew, you say high density and high dimensional, but we need a little clarification on what do you mean. What does it mean that the Earth is a 12th dimensional being? Please explain the concept of density and a reality of density of a being. So density determines how much potent life force the DNA instrument can handle. So you can be a very potent DNA instrument, but not be able to perceive the fourth or fifth dimension. Dimensions are forms of perceptions that you can bilocate, trilocate, quadlocate, or simultaneously exist on based off of your ability and awareness. Density represents the potency of the being that can do things with dimensional awareness. Now, Earth is a 12th dimensional being, but it's a 15th density entity. It has lowered its frequency. Its original purpose was to be a 7th density galactic seed planet, meaning it had taken its 15th density concept and had manifested massive energies that could resolve karma of tens of trillions of external beings in a universe or a galaxy through karmic resolution. It took its higher density purpose, made a physical infrastructure to attract beings and go through a resolution process. That is what a 15th density with a 12th dimensional being and a 7th density seed system. Each individual being here has a potency level that they can come in with that this instrument can handle. When we do body work, mind work, and spirit work, we increase our density, ability to operate simultaneously in many different places with full awareness. So that is the main difference between density and dimension. Also, density determines what is a signature frequency match for you. If you are a light worker with all the good spiritual hygiene behind you and you're constantly attracting the negative gutter trash, there is something within you that is a signature frequency match that attracts them that needs to be healed. And there's thousands of other examples that can be like that. Let's say you're the gutter trash and all of a sudden you're attracting all these healers. Well, all these healers are trying to tell you, Mr. Ego Gutter Trash, that you got to get yourself out of the trash and be into the human beingness again and take it on to the next level. That's signature frequency match, though density does that. We go through also what's called separation of densities, where you make that I am choice to say, I'm no longer allowing the gutter trash to affect my life. I'm rejecting that completely. I've taken my density and used it as an I am will action that creates a border, boundary, rules, and policy that says, no, my actions are sovereign. And if you choose to roll over my sovereign actions, my potent I am self will give a form of awareness punch that may not be violent, but it is in my level of responsibility to tell you, no, you cannot violate the density of this being. All right, so this is going to be the last question. All right, I'll do Lightship Captain. What is the purpose of this universe using DNA, RNA, helical template? Are there other geometrical patterns of biological expression? Yes. There are other DNA that are not strictly helical DNA. They're octagonal DNA, and I won't push too much farther in that, but the reason this form of dual DNA is being used is because, let's just say, when this world was being perceived by the celestial minds who were going to be attracting trillions of light entities to come and resolve karma that was based in timeline genocide, they needed something that would, let's just say, attract them. An upsell. This type of DNA was not commonly used through our universe, and it was 7-color time experiencing DNA that had a potential of 8th, that had all these bells and whistles on it that the other DNA systems didn't have, because this was specifically engineered to attract us to come into these so we would resolve timeline genocide karma. So the helical system was the prize, even though we don't see it now. It's because we can transcend and connect to our unity of oneness through this technology, where those other DNA systems that are out there are still growing. And there are light beings who say, yes, I could go into that DNA skin suit, but I'm investing into this type of octagonal system or transgender or transhelical pulsar systems. There's millions of others. It's how the I am as a non-localized process becomes localized through your birthing process. As I said earlier in one of the questions, there are ways to direct manifest energy beings who become DNA resonant, non-helical DNA. So DNA is the encodement process when the higher density, fifth density dimensional self says, all right, I need to go into a planet and have a life and begin to encode all of my stream of light experiences into this dual helical system with a dual side brain so it can begin to unravel my unlimited spiritual point of view. All right, everyone, this has been an incredible process. We're going to be having more and more shows coming up. The next show we're going to be doing is going to be able to have a call-in number. Please let everyone know, please do not abuse the number. Every time we're at a station, we're having some people that abuse the number. We'll probably only take 4 or 5 calls the next time we do a show. So, and then we'll also answer some questions from the chat. Thanks a lot, everyone, for being here. I look forward to doing a lot more shows with you, and we'll catch you the next time. Bye-bye.